This video means a lot to me. I've been thinking about it for months and now finally it's happening today. As a design leader, when I see junior team members, it takes me back to my early days, those tough and open moments. That brings a wave of nostalgia and emotions, the kind that feels good and hurts a bit at the same time. And it's those moments that remind me how far I had come. You know, every success comes with its own path, full of ups and downs that shape who you become. My journey to becoming a designer, then joining Swiggy, was no easy ride. I shared in one of my earlier videos how I joined and what it took, the hard work and the kindness it needed. But I always feel that this journey has taught me things no one else could. Life's experiences give the best lessons and the ones that show you the path ahead. So I thought, why not pass on my 11 years of those lessons raw and real? That is why this video feels so personal, like a note from my heart to my younger self and to yours. It is not like my usual tutorials or design tips. This one is all about me and what I have learned. So in the next 11 minutes or so, I'll share my 11 years of life lessons that shifted how I think, work, and live. And more than just lessons, it is my full journey and my experiences where I made plenty of mistakes early on, learned from them, and now I'm handling those over to you so that you can skip the same pitfalls. Hope you learn from it and pick up something valuable. Lesson 1. Question everything. When I started my first job, I was that new guy. Everyone around seemed to know everything. The terms, the process, the inside jokes. And in meetings, I would often sit there listening to people talk and not understanding half of it. I had so many questions in my head, but I wouldn't ask them. Why? Mainly because of two reasons. First, I was scared that people would think I do not know the basics. And second, I didn't want to interrupt the discussions or slow things down. So I stayed quiet. I nodded like I understood everything, but honestly, I didn't. Later, I would go back and try to figure it out all on my own. Now, that's not really a bad approach, but then one day something very interesting happened. I was in a meeting and I had a question during that meeting, but I didn't ask it as usual. And then the VP of design, yes, the most senior person in the room, raised his hand and asked the exact same question. I don't quite remember exactly what the question was, but it was something like, hey, sorry to interrupt, but can you please show that part again? I didn't quite understand how we got to this conclusion. I had the very same doubt, how did that relate to this conclusion and so on. I wanted to ask the question, but I didn't until the VP of design asked the very same question. That moment changed everything for me because I realized the question I was afraid to ask was actually a great question. It was a great question not because the VP asked it, but because that question changed the entire direction of the whole discussion. That day I learned something big. It's not about knowing everything. It's about wanting to understand and know everything. From then on, I started asking nicely, clearly, and without overthinking. Hey, sorry to sound elementary, but could you please tell that to me once again? I didn't quite catch it. And suddenly everything made sense. I could follow discussions better, contribute more, and actually enjoy the process. Over time, I also noticed that the smartest people in the room are usually the ones asking the most basic questions. Not because they don't know, but because they care about getting the foundation right. And that's the real lesson here. If the foundation isn't strong, everything built on top of it will eventually fall apart. So whether you're working in a company, freelancing, or just building something on your own, don't hesitate. Ask the question. Question everything. Alright, lesson 2. Master rules and then break them. When I was learning design, I wanted to skip to the fun part. You know the part where you bend the grid, overlap text on images, and make things look different? But here's the catch. You can't break the rules unless you first understand them. Otherwise, you're not being creative. You're just being careless. In my early days, I would try random layouts just to make things look cool. But sometimes they worked, but most of the time, not so much. And whenever I looked at the work of great designers, I noticed something common. Even their weirdest, most experimental stuff had some structure in them. There was rhythm, spacing, balance. It wasn't random, even though it felt random. That's when it hit me. Creativity needs discipline before it can look effortless. So I went back to the basics. I learned grids, typography, alignment, color theory properly. Yes, all the boring sounding stuff. And once I truly got them, breaking the rules started feeling intentional and natural. I knew exactly why a headline slightly breaking the margin worked. I knew when an off-centered layout still felt balanced. It's like how musicians do. They learn the scales first, then they jazz it up and bring their own signature elements to it. Or like chefs, they follow the recipe once, then start improvising over it to bring their own characteristic element. Design is no different. The magic begins when you have mastered the rules so well that you understand why the rules exist in the first place, the purpose behind the rules, and then when you break those rules, you still hold on to that purpose. That way, even though you are bending the rules, your work still makes sense. So if you're starting out, don't rush to be different. Learn the rules, understand why they exist, then break them with purpose. Because rule breaking without understanding is noise. Rule breaking with understanding, that's design. Lesson 3. Stop trying to be a specialist too early in life. When I started my design career, I wanted to be great at something fast. I thought, should I become a UI specialist, a UX researcher, a motion designer? Everyone around me seemed to have their thing figured out. And I was everywhere. One day I would be making wireframes, next day designing some logos, and the day after that learning how color psychology works and so on. At first it felt messy, like I was jumping around too much. But later I realized that's exactly what helped me grow faster. Because when you start broad, you start understanding how everything connects. You see how design meets product, how research shapes strategy, how motion brings emotion. Early in your career, don't rush to specialize. Collect experiences. Try things, learn widely. No, this is not one of those philosophical gyan asking you to have patience and things will fall in place. This is actually the way it is done. You can't get a PhD without finishing your high school first. It's very similar. It's especially important in the world of product design because it involves way too many disciplines to begin with. Focus on knowing and learning the entire process really well. Later, as you gain experience, you will naturally discover the areas you can be called an expert of. And often you will see other people around you start considering you as an expert of a certain thing before even you discovered it yourself. I have been designing for past 11 years and I still do not know what my specialty or expertise is. Yes, people around me do call me a specialist or expert for a few things, but in my own mind, I'm yet to find that. So explore, learn broadly, build your base. Because the wider the roots, the taller you will grow. Lesson number 4, learn multiple things together. In my first design job, I was actually hired purely as a UX designer. You know, the problem-solving guy? They picked me for my problem-solving skills and not how flashy my UI looked. But I used to watch some of my teammates create these amazing UI concepts with smooth little animations and transitions. Their work just felt alive. I wanted to do that too. The thing is, I knew I wasn't ready to design interactions that could go live in the app yet. Those had much higher bar. So I started working on small side projects, my own little experiments. As I tried to make my animations feel natural, I realized something. To make good motion, first need to design good visuals. The timing, spacing, easing, all of it depends on how strong my UI was. So I started learning both side by side, UI and motion. What began as a practice for animation ended up teaching me layout, color, visual balance too. And that's when I learned an important lesson. You don't have to master one skill completely before starting another one. Some skills actually grow better together. UI helped me understand motion. Motion helped me appreciate UI. They both made each other stronger. Once you have explored broadly, pick a few areas and go deep. Not one, but a couple at once. You'll be surprised how much they feed into each other and accelerate your growth and learning process. So don't wait to finish learning one thing before starting the next. Grow a few things in parallel. They will make each other and you a lot stronger. But of course, keep in mind that do not end up taking way too many things on your plate together just because I said. You should also understand how much you can do together, have those connected skills together so that you can learn them together. Lesson 5, build skills that actually work. Alright, I just spoke about how I grew my UI and motion skills together. They were connected skills. That happened quite natural for me. But if you're wondering where to even start, here's the trick. Learn adjacent skills. Now, what do I mean by that? When you start your job or when you start to design, you're actually hired or you actually start doing one thing, which is your core skill. Maybe UX research or UI design or writing. For me, it was UX design or problem solving. That's your anchor, your core skill. Please don't confuse this as your expertise or specialty. This is just a skill you begin with. The adjacent skills are the one that comes right before or right after what you do. For example, if you are a UX researcher, learn how those insights are used by UX designers to make decisions. How do they design layouts based on those insights? If you are a UX designer, understand what visual design is or what UX research is. Similarly, if you're a visual designer, learn how problem solving is done in layouts, or how prototypes are made, or how animations are made, and so on. And then keep repeating this process of learning adjacent skills from what you already know. These are not just random skills, they are connected. And that's the reason they come one after another in the process of design. They make your work more complete. Over time, you will notice that you start understanding the entire workflow and not just your little corner of it. And that makes you way more valuable. But the real truth is, skills mean nothing if they just sit in your head. I have seen so many designers binge tutorials, save dribble shots, and call it learning. That's not learning, that's collecting. Real learning happens when you do stuff, practice while you're watching the tutorials, or use those skills on actual projects under pressure with deadlines. When something breaks and you fix it, when something doesn't look right and you figure out why, that's where real learning happens. And speaking of real projects, when you start working on multiple things at once, whether it's client work, side projects, or team collaboration, things can get messy fast. Tasks scattered across messages, deadlines and random notes, files everywhere, and that's where ODOO comes in. It's an all-in-one management platform that provides entrepreneurs with a range of applications, and its project module has genuinely helped me and my team stay organized. You can create projects with custom stages like research, design, review, and final under the Kanban view, add tasks, assign them to people, set priorities and deadlines. You can even break down complex projects into subtasks, which is perfect when a design project has multiple components. What I really like is how it adapts to how you actually work. The Kanban view organizes tasks by stage, move them like sticky notes, and keep your pipeline well organized. The Gantt view gives you that bird's eye timeline so that you can see dependencies and schedule dates. And the simple list view lets you make batch changes when you want to update multiple tasks quickly. For collaboration, everything lives in one place. You can tag team members, attach files or mockups directly to task, and add notes, schedule, calls or reviews all within the task itself throughout their building chatter. And if you're freelancing or working with clients, you can track time spent on each task with timesheets, which makes billing and workload management way clearer. The best part is ODOO's first app is completely free for life with unlimited hosting and support. So if you're just starting out or working solo, you can manage your projects without spending anything. And as your work grows, you can add more apps starting from rupees 580 per user per month. It is designed to grow with you. So if you're juggling multiple projects or working with a team, give ODOO a try to save hours of confusion and help you focus on the actual design work instead of managing chaos. The link is in the description. Thank you, ODOO. Lesson 6. Unfair time balances out. Life isn't always fair. You can do everything right, work hard, deliver results, meet every deadline, and still things don't go your way. And sometimes you barely try and things magically fall in place. You know, it was during peak COVID and I was a design manager back then. I had worked insanely hard that year. Countless projects, crazy timelines, and genuinely great outcomes. Everything was on point and it felt like the perfect time for my promotion to senior manager. But it didn't happen. No explanation that truly made sense, and I was crushed. I remember feeling so demotivated that I almost thought of switching jobs. But for some reason, I stayed. In the very next appraisal cycle, I worked at a normal pace, not killing myself over every detail, not trying to prove anything. And that's the cycle when I actually got promoted. Was it fair this time? Maybe not. But that's the thing. Sometimes life evens itself out in weird ways. It was probably unfair both the times. But one time you lose, the next time you gain. And over the long run, it just balances out. The key is when something feels unfair, don't stay silent. Speak up calmly, clearly. Make your point without burning bridges. Don't let anyone walk over you, but also don't walk over others because life has this strange way of keeping scores. Sometimes you win, sometimes you don't, but eventually it all adds up. So if it feels rough right now, hang on. Your balance sheet is still being written. Lesson 7, do it, ignore the noise. Now here's something I learned the hard way. You know, about only 5% of people in this world actually do things. The rest, they just talk about it. When you start taking actions, leading a project, making bold decisions, or driving change and growing in your career, not everyone will like it. Some will support you, but others will talk behind your back. When I was a lead product designer, I went through this phase too. There were people who spoke about me when I wasn't in the room. And let's be clear, it wasn't the good kind of talk. It wasn't feedback or constructive criticism. It was just random gossip comments made simply because some people didn't like me. Not my work, not my decisions, just me. At first it hurt because the people who were doing this, I thought they were my friends. I kept wondering if I had done something wrong. Maybe I had said something the wrong way, or maybe I should have tried harder to fit in. But the toughest part was I couldn't even talk to them directly. They never said anything to my face. All of it was happening quietly behind my back, and I only got to know through whispers and side conversations. But over time, I realized something important. It wasn't about me at all. It was about them. When you start standing out, when your work becomes visible, when you start driving impact, people notice. And not everyone handles that well. So I learned to develop a thick skin, to not let every whisper shake my confidence, because the truth is, the more visible your work becomes, the more opinions it will attract. And that's okay. It's a part of growth. At first, they ignore you, then they hate you, then they worship you, and then you win. By the time they're still talking, you've already moved on to your next milestone. So don't let the noise slow you down. Stick to why you started. Keep showing up, keep doing the work. Because in the end, it's not the loudest people who make an impact. It's the ones who quietly keep building. Be that 5% who actually do. Lesson number 8. Life is about pleasing people. You didn't expect this one, did you? I just talk about ignoring the noise, and now I'm saying life is about pleasing people? Sound contradicting, isn't it? But hear me out. Humans are social beings. We live in a world built on connections, relationships, and collaborations. Whether we like it or not, we do not do anything completely alone. Even as a designer, your entire job is about pleasing people if you look at it. You are designing for your users so that they enjoy the experience. You're aligning with product managers, engineers, and leaders so the work moves forward. You're creating value that helps your company grow, which in turn keep investors happy. So yes, life is about pleasing people, but not through flattery or fake smiles. Through genuine work, empathy, and effort. To do that well, you need both hard skills and soft skills. You need the craft to build great things and the emotional intelligence to work with people. And if you think about it, everything we have spoken about so far ties right back to this one. When you question everything, you understand people better. When you bend rules, you innovate for them. When you build broad and deep skills, you serve them better. When you handle unfair times, you grow stronger among them. When you ignore the noise, you focus on what really matters, creating something meaningful for people. Because in the end, life and design both come down to the same thing, making things better for others while staying true to yourself. That's the kind of people pleasing that truly matters. So this was it. 8 lessons. Yeah, I thought of making 11 lessons from 11 years, but then I felt I would be force-fitting if I really try to make 11 lessons out of it. Whatever I wanted to say pretty much fit into these 8 things I spoke about. So this is all about me, right from my heart, and I hope you feel it too. I think a lot of you will spot your own story in here, like when you start your first job or face those rough days at work later on. And yes, I'm still figuring out, still making mistakes, still fixing them as best as I can, because life never stops testing you. It just throws new surprises to you as you grow. But here's what I want to say before we wrap up. This video is the kind of chat we rarely have face to face. The kind that stays hidden until one day you really need to hear it. I hope this reached you at the right time, that it gave you a small little nudge, a few honest reminders, and maybe the confidence to keep going on your own path. And remember, even at 11 years, I am no expert. I'm just a guy sharing what worked for me. Tweak all these lessons so that they fit your need better. So thank you for watching this special video, and if you love it, do like, comment, and share with your friends who are interested in design and confused about it, because this video will change them.